Owls asleep amidst the trees, bats all a-swaying in the breeze. But one soul lies anxious, wide awake, fearing all manner of ghouls, hags, and wraiths.
Nice tune. Been a while since I heard it last.
Folk have forgotten it.
Got other things on their mind.
Things like me.
They paid me for you.
In times past, no amount of coin would convince a witcher to take this contract.
Times have changed.
Silent for the night, cows turned in as daylight dies. But when soul lies anxious, wide awake, for the witcher, brave and bold, paid in coin of gold. He'll chop and slice, you cut and dice, you eat, you uphold. Eat you whole.
Welcome to another Witcher lore video, guys. So people have been suggesting I do this character for quite a long time now, and I was honestly not really sure how to do this character just because a lot of the lore surrounding this character is quite confusing to say the least. But I was thinking about what video to make today, and I thought that I really want to try and just hammer all the information out about this character and try and work through it myself. So I've decided to make today's video on Orianna. So to begin with this character, I would like to address a big part of her character that has many of us Witcher fans confused. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, in the Witcher games, Orianna is confirmed as a true higher vampire. At least she's presented that way in The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. She can speak, she can interact, she's clearly got control of her abilities, and she is an active member of society. But in the A Night to Remember trailer, her appearance quite clearly resembles a Bruxa instead of a higher vampire. And that fact has confused a lot of us fans of the Witch universe, and it makes us all think, is she a higher vampire or a Bruxa? So I'm going to try and answer this question as best as I can. So currently, the most generally agreed reason is that CD Projekt Red simply made the Orianna character in Blood and Wine as a way to link to their earlier trailer. But obviously they wanted her to have more of a character than just, I guess you could say, a kind of monster, and they wanted her to be a little bit more relatable, perhaps make her seem a little bit more interesting, so they thought, let's make her a higher vampire instead. And obviously that doesn't really make sense because she seems to have transformed into a Bruxa by the time that trailer comes around. So it's generally agreed that CD Projekt Red just kinda messed up with that one a bit, and they had to sacrifice a bit of continuity just to make the story better. But for a lore-related reason behind this, there is actually a quote from the book The World of the Witcher, and this may support that she can be both a higher vampire and a Bruxa. And I'm going to read this quote to you now. Many experts include Alps, Mullers, Catacans, Bruxa, and Nekorats as members of this group. These species indeed possess several unique traits not shared with their lesser cousins, and thus are commonly called higher vampires. So this quote shows us that CD Projekt Red may have played a little fast and loose with the vampire lore from the books, and in their video game version of the Witcher universe, they've pretty much just said that Bruxas are in fact classed as higher vampires. And of course later on, CD Projekt Red did confirm that it's best to classify Orianna as a Bruxa, but even then there's still a lot of clear inconsistencies. So for now, we're just going to say that Orianna is both a higher vampire and a Bruxa, or maybe she's not quite on the same level as Regis and Dettlaff, but she's still classed as a higher vampire. I mean, there is another explanation that people will probably comment about, and some people do say that the Bruxa shown in the Night to Remember trailer isn't Orianna, but for those of us who have played the games, it is clear that it's supposed to be her. I mean, for example, they both hum the same song, and your final interaction with Orianna, if you go that route, does kind of set up that trailer pretty well. And of course, they're both voiced by the same voice actress, and they look almost identical, so it's pretty much confirmed it's Orianna. So now I've addressed that confusing point, and I hope at least you can find some sort of clarity in that, and you can kind of put up with it and not question it quite so much anymore. Let's move on to some information about this character. For her appearance, she is presented as a woman in her late 20s to early 30s, and this is just an estimate on my part. I could say that she might be mid 30s to late 30s as well, but for now she looks around about that sort of age. She has red hair and brown eyes, and as I said earlier, is technically a Bruxa. So to understand her character and bits of her background that you may not have picked up on when playing the games, for the rest of this video I'm just going to briefly explain her story in the games and how it actually links to the A Night to Remember trailer. Orianna is first introduced to us as a rich citizen of Tucson, owning both an estate and an orphanage. She was even known to host extravagant parties where most of Tucson's important people gathered. She was also considered to be a very respected member of the community. So she had quite a high place in society, she was very well known, and obviously, other than other higher vampires and vampires, nobody knew that she was actually a vampire. So you as the player, and by proxy Geralt, first meet her when you attend one of her parties, and you attend this party with Anna Henrietta. And whilst there, you learn that Orianna had purchased an item known as the Heart of Toussaint. And this just shows how frivolous this character is with her money. She doesn't really care. She just wants to buy stuff and just explore the world and see what it's like. I guess you could say she wants to live life to the fullest. And whilst at this party, Orianna is also presented to us as a friend of both Regis and Dettlaff, who are of course also higher vampires, as they both attended this party as well. After that section of the story, we don't really see Orianna for a long time, but if later in the game, the player decides to not choose Cyana's route, it is found out that Orianna's motives behind owning her own orphanage were nothing short of sinister. It actually turns out that this character, like many vampires, has a craving for human blood. But in her case, she preferred the blood of children, and so she continuously fed off them when the craving arose. Geralt of course arrives at this orphanage, sees what's happening, and when he threatens Orianna, one of the children steps in between them and asks him not to hurt her, and this kinda gives us the impression that the children are doing it voluntarily. They probably thought they have nowhere else to go, so they had to defend her, and they really didn't mind about the blood as long as they got somewhere to live. So after that interaction, Geralt decides to leave the orphanage and states that he'll be back for her, and then after that Orianna is not present for the rest of the game. However, her story does not end there. As just as promised, Geralt does return for her, as shown to us in the Night to Remember trailer, and after a brief fight, she is defeated and then killed by Geralt, ending her story. So the fact that she was killed also causes a lot of confusion for us yet again, because as we know, if Orianna is classed as a higher vampire or even a Bruxa, and if CD Projekt Red want to say that Bruxas are higher vampires, at least in their games, then the rule would still apply that higher vampires can only be killed by other higher vampires. So yet again, this is another little inconsistency that doesn't really work with their explanation to how she can be a higher vampire and a Bruxa at the same time. So for all intents and purposes, we can say that in this trailer she is presented as a Bruxa fully, and not a higher vampire in any way. and the only explanation I could come up with in my head for how this could possibly make sense is that she is technically a Bruxa and a higher vampire, but on a lower level than Detlef and Regis, and perhaps Detlef and Regis don't consider her a higher vampire like them. Therefore, when they talk about how only higher vampires can kill higher vampires, they're only referring to their level of higher vampires, and Orianna's level of higher vampires doesn't really count, so they can just be killed by anyone. And I hope my explanation there has made sense to you, as I know that's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but that's the only way I can see it working. Or perhaps you could say that Geralt may have found a way to kill higher vampires. And sorry there's not a lot of info on this character, it's just the fact that she's only a game character and was not in the books at all. I've told you everything I know, and I think I've addressed some things that weren't addressed in the games, so I hope you've all learnt something new in today's video anyway. Finally, to end today's video, I'm just going to read her journal entry. During the soiree, organised by the Mandragora, Geralt met Orianna, a valued patroness to many local artists. There was something about this woman that made most who met her feel somehow ill at ease. She could not break the Witcher's iron-hard self-composure, of course, but she did give him the impression that she was no normal aristocrat, and his impressions were usually spot on. Regis's charismatic friend was revealed to be a fellow vampire, though nowhere near as civilized and humanitarian as he. She owned an orphanage outside the city, which as the Witcher discovered to his horror, she used as a sort of blood cellar, visiting it whenever the urge struck her to drink some blood straight from an orphan's neck. Geralt swore that if they were ever to meet again. Anyway guys, I hope that journal entry filled in a few little gaps about this character, and you just enjoyed possibly learning some new information. Anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Be sure to click the like button if you enjoyed today's video, as it really does help me out, and these videos take a long time to do, so clicking the like button not only helps the channel, but it's also quite a nice thing to do. So thank you to all of you that do that. If this is the first video you're finding on my channel, I do Witcher lore videos and high fantasy lore videos and gameplay every few days, so if you want to get that in your subscription box, be sure to subscribe, as then you'll be able to see the videos whenever they come out. So thank you to all of you that subscribe and are subscribed. As always, be sure to go and follow me on Twitter. I do updates on there whenever I can. I post pictures if anything interesting's happening. I post the videos on there whenever I upload them, so if you just want to make sure you don't miss the videos at all and you use Twitter quite a lot, following me is quite a useful thing. So be sure to go and do that, guys. And of course, go and follow me on Twitch as well. I'm going to try and play some games on there soon. I've been playing games on there a bit more recently, and I hope you've all enjoyed those streams. And if you want to make sure you don't miss a stream, be sure to go and follow me, as you'll get the notification whenever I do go live. And as always, a big thank you to the Patreon pledges. You guys are just so amazing. It's very, very kind what you do. I just want to say thank you to every single person that donates to me on Patreon. I'm happy to put your names at the end of every single one of these videos. I'm happy to let you see all the thumbnails in high def a day before I upload the video. And you know, I just want to say thank you all so much for donating. It's very, very kind, and I just want to say thank you all so much. Anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have an awesome rest of the week.